Hello, Don here. Welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery, where we're helping you get your practice to the $1 million mark and beyond. I'd like to talk today a little bit about our process with starting to use a new product in the office. So we have a lot of different types of treatments, and I've gone over those in the past. I think we have some of the higher revenue makers, which are like such as shockwave and laser and Swift and all these other things like that. I've been approached, and I just want to give a little shout out to EBM Medical, because they really have approached us, I guess, consistently and kind of providing value throughout. And so I want to share our little kind of how they approach, because I always like people that approach well, and I also like to tell kind of what my thoughts are on how to start implementing that in my practice. So first of all, if you don't know, EBM Medical has medical grade foods and like kind of compounding creams, and I think there's a lot of different vendors. And we've seen them for a number of years at conferences, and it's always been nice. I really liked their business model, which is basically direct to consumer and basing it on the doctor's authority. Now, they probably have a lot of different verticals, which mean a lot of different specialties they cover, but usually when I was looking for it, just seemed like it was just podiatry, but I'm sure it's much bigger. And so they reached out kind of gently after conferences, and at this recent conference, we had a meet with them, and then they did a little kind of met with our doctors. So we have an office meeting most Tuesday mornings, and we invited them to participate, and they kind of explained a little bit about EBM Medical. So I always find that when I'm trying to introduce something, if I get interested in something and I have 3 other doctors, I really need to invite the company to show it to all the doctors versus a unilateral decision. And so they came in, and then we were still a little bit undecided. And I think for us, like the difference between having a single office and like 2 offices with 4 doctors is that it's a little bit harder to make decisions when we're all partners. And it was kind of a challenge to decide on this, only because there's a lot of moving parts, and some doctors like the idea, others were just basically too busy. And I think it's not a decision of good and bad. I think it was a decision of are we just too busy, and will it add any additional work on our plate? And so, the one of the representatives reached out to us multiple times, and there was a nice webinar that was shared, which kind of explained how to use the different products. And I always like to see, well, how is it going to go into my patient protocol? So if you've listened to any of these before, you're going to learn about my treatment sheets and my patient presentations. So presentations are like the PowerPoint slides that I use, and then the treatment sheets are the things that I go over when I'm treating. And I always try to avoid overwhelm with patients, because if you overwhelm them, it can be a challenge. So once again, if you don't have those, I would go to podiatrypracticemastery.com. I have all these resources there there's a free download there called the $1 Million Blueprint. But so as I was thinking about it, well, I finally was one day with my partner. I said, hey, let's just do this, because I said, do you have anything good for neuropathy? And he's like, no. I'm like, well, if you only use it for that thing and it gives some benefit to the patients, it'll be worth it for you and for them and things like that. So that's how we started. Now, one of the benefits I like about EBM, and we carry a lot of product. So a lot of the product that we carry in the office, we do high volumes of it, and it's financially worth it for us to carry it, and patients can walk out with it. Meaning, like if they have to go multiple places, it's going to drag, right? If you tell patients to go out and buy a cream or medicate, even fill a prescription from the pharmacy, many times they don't fill those prescriptions, or they don't go buy the creams or buy the things that are recommended just because it's too much work. So having them there makes it a lot easier. And I think the second best thing to having things in your office is having things shipped to patients. And this is what the beautiful idea of drop shipping that EBM has come up with. So basically what happens is you make a recommendation for one of their products, and then it's actually drop shipped to them. So it was pretty easy setup. They like texted me something, and I put my name and email, and the office set it up, and we are good to go with the products. Now I want to talk to you. So this is when I'm like 3 days into EBM. So I want to kind of explain the good, the bad, and kind of the ugly. So first of all, I'm going to start with the good. I've already done it for 4 or 5 patients. I'm working on my explanations with patients, and I'm thinking they have one that's a good. I don't remember the number because I'm new to it, but an EB, I think EB whatever number it was for anti-inflammatory. So the benefits is that it has turmeric, and so patients maybe that are on a blood thinner or patients that have stomach problems, it's another option. Now you might ask, well, why in the world would a patient want to pay something like $60 a month when they could just get a normal prescription or even an over-the-counter item? A lot of times these patients I see, they really have no resignations, I think, because they are concerned about, they want something more natural. And I think they want something because the doctor is recommending it. So I'm going to try this. I'm trying this on the patients, and I'm going to get their feedback for it. So I started with that one. A couple of patients for fibromas. There used to be another company used for topical verapamil. So patients that might not want shockwave or cortisone injections. So the topical, the verapamil, I did that for a patient this first week. And then another patient that had some Raynaud's. They have a product for Raynaud's. Now, do these work? I don't know yet. Okay, so my thought is, okay, we can try it for 3 months with the patient, and then we're going to reassess. So in one sense, it also gives me a follow-up visit for them in 3 months, which is kind of an added visit, which is kind of a good thing. But also I can see and judge if those actually work for the patient, because if they do, then I'll continue to use it. Now, if I find that they're not really having success, then I'll stop it. Okay, so I think in one sense, 3 months or that little value is kind of worth it for patients. So I've offered that one. And then today, another option is, like, for example, we carry a couple of topicals in the office, like Formula 7. I've always wanted to try Tosalin, okay? And because everyone's talked to me about Tosalin, but I didn't really want to cover something or carry something in the office until I was totally convinced. And switch out, because it's just a pain to switch. And so with this, I can order Tosalin. Now, I know the profit might not be the same, and I agree with that, but by having it and providing it, I can give it a test, see the patient back in 3 months, see if they have the results that everyone else says it is, and then maybe potentially I could start buying it and dispensing it in the office. So that is kind of another benefit for this. So those are some of the good things. The bad thing is, I still have to log into another website. I haven't taught my scribe how to do it yet, but I'm going to give him the login. That's another bad thing. But I think actually I could add these to my EMR, like as a compounded medication. And I think I could just do it through my EMR, and so it would show up in the EMR, meaning it would show up as a prescription in the EMR. So I'm kind of excited about doing that, putting it in the EMR. They haven't really taught me about that yet, but if I could put it in the EMR, then it would be a lot easier for me to use. So that's another kind of bad thing. And another good thing, going back to the good things, they have a nice favorites bar. And the nice thing is I had the favorites. I basically Googled EBM Medical, and I found a couple other doctors that carried a lot of the EBM stuff. And I just copied their favorites or whatever was on their website, and I just added that to my favorites. Now, the cool thing is when you add it and there's 3 other doctors, they all see my favorites. Like, we all have the same favorites for our practice, which made it just a lot simpler for me teaching the other doctors how to use it. And then another kind of not so good thing is I had to make my own video for the other doctors explaining how to use it. So I think having a couple of videos initially would have helped them, meaning this is how you use it, here's like a screen share, just, here's how you add your favorites, here's how you prescribe things, here you put the name, email. It would just make it a little bit less daunting because I had to play around with it the first time. And that made it just a little bit more stressful and a little bit more uncomfortable initially when using it. So I think if they gave me like a series, maybe even like a Google Doc or something else like that, with a number of short videos that kind of explain how to use it. Okay, here's how you log in. Here's how you sign up for your program. Here's how you add your name. Here's how you do your first prescription. Here's how you set up for the billing. So that was another not so good thing I think they could improve on. And one other thing would be actually when you start, they start to text you like all the time. And I think maybe even when you sign up, like, do you want all these texts? Because I get a text every time it was ordered, every time the patient, the billing thing went through. So I'm not too interested in all these. I like unsubscribe from everything. So that was another thing that was just a little friction point. The nice thing is I had the rep, so I could just text the rep, which was kind of nice. So that was a thing that they could kind of improve on. And then I think the other thing that they could improve on would be giving me, I know what these things are used for. Okay, so they tell you that. They have little handouts you can use and things like that. I think doing a webinar with some actual doctors that use these things and sharing kind of each one, kind of how they use, what are the main 5 or 10, because really it's the 80-20 rule. You're going to use 20% of them 80% of the time, and kind of how they use them every single time, how they use them effectively, how they throw it into their protocol. Is it the first visit, the second visit? How do you answer the typical questions that patients have? Like all these things, I think it would just make it a lot easier to get people ramped up for doing these types of products. But all in all, it has only been a few days, like day 3 or 4. We're going to go forward into the future and continue to use it, and I'll be giving you guys feedback. I think so. My plans for marketing, kind of what am I going to be doing for the marketing? My plan is to put it into my protocol. So all my Achilles, plantar fascia, all other foot pain, first visit's going to get the anti-inflammatory, or at least they're going to have an offer for that. Other things that I haven't had anything good for, like neuropathy, Raynaud's, fibromas, these are going to be actually added in for that. I don't do many wounds. I don't do other things like that, but I think these initial ones, and I have my own thing for like biotin. I don't think I'll be using the biotin, and then I'll be trying the Tosalin products because I don't have those in my office. So that's going to be how I'm going to be planning to use it. Now, what I use there, they have a stretching band for plantar fasciitis and like a shower cover. Now, we already have these, so if you have product in your office, you don't have to replace it from theirs. But it gives you an office even an option to try new things, and I think it's going to increase my follow-up visits as well. So for some of these things, if I'm going to have them try it and then do a follow-up. Now, the last thing is it's going to make it a little bit easier because when they get it, it's almost like I am prescribing it to them, and versus me selling it to them. I think there's a little bit of a difference on patient perception of me saying, hey, why don't you just buy this on the way out versus, hey, I am prescribing this for you. I think there's a big difference with this prescription type. So I think there's a less resistance in that. Okay, it's still prescribed, but it's self-pay, yes, but it's still a prescription like any other prescription that they'd be used to. So I would like to know if anyone's listening to this, that you use EBM, kind of some of these questions that I asked, like what are your favorite ones that you use, what's good, what's bad. Before I vetted them, I did look at the Better Business Bureau, and I kind of looked at different things. I've talked to some other doctors. They gave me a couple of references, and they said they enjoyed using the products. And we'll see how much it really adds to the bottom line. I guess my last thing is, a lot of times I've always focused on not focusing on low value checks. Like it might be $60 per prescription, like something like that. I might earn in the practice. And so, is it really worth the $60 to do that for this added complexity and cost to the patient? And that's something I'm still kind of trying to figure out, because I would much prefer talk about a $600 pair of orthotics or a $1,500 course of shockwave than I would for some of these other things. So I will let you know if the juice is worth the squeeze. I'm going to be doing it, and we'll kind of see if I don't get distracted and seeing how this will work. I'm also considering adding the links onto our website. I've thought about, there's two options. You can either prescribe directly to the patient via their login, or you can put them on the website so they can purchase them. I just think that personally, I think the credibility will be higher if I am prescribing it versus them just buying it online. I know that's another option. I don't know how they get past the prescription part of it, but that would be another option to put these links on your website, and they give you all the resources to show you how to do that. Okay, that's my 2 cents. Once again, if you guys found this beneficial, please like it and give it a thumbs up, and let me know what other things you'd like to learn about. Thanks.